Ladies and gentlemen, here are some winter truck driving tips. As a footnote, before I begin, number one, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing first and foremost. So if I stop talking randomly, that's because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. Both of my hands are on the wheel. I'm fully aware of my surroundings and what I'm doing. Number two, I don't claim to be a professional. I do get paid to do this job. However, this isn't the end-all be-all tips. Just what I picked up during the years driving truck. So let's get started. Tip number one. See these lanes? Don't try and be a hero and try and clear the way like Christopher Columbus coming to America. If you see lanes like this, drive in them. They're going to be rutted out and you're going to get a little bit more traction. So try and keep your tires, at least one set of tires, in these grooves right here. It's going to help your traction and it's going to keep you out of getting in some deep snow, which could then pull you off on either direction. Tip number two, and maybe the most important thing, slow down and leave a lot of distance. More than you think you need. Tip number three, numero quattro, or tres. When turning, try not to put so much speed or throttle into the turn. When your wheels are turned, you're just going to end up sliding. So my tip is to turn like a race car driver. What do I mean by that? Accelerate, coast through the turn, and then slowly accelerate out, just like so. Now obviously this doesn't always work, because sometimes your front tires don't always get traction, but that's usually helped me. Tip number four. Sometimes you just gotta give her, and you just have to accelerate through the slush. Yes, your wheels will spin and spin, but eventually they will get traction. As long as you have some kind of forward momentum going, just keep going. Don't try and stop. Don't try and regain traction. Your tires are just going to spin, but with that momentum, you'll eventually find some traction and keep going. Tip number five. Try not to button hook your turns and sort of coast them in, glide them in, so you're not having to turn so sharply. If that means you have to take up some extra room on the road, or extra lanes, then so be it. But that also means you're not having to turn your wheels so sharply, therefore going in. My other tip is, if you can, try to get to a place where you have to accelerate that's either flat or sit back a little bit and use your momentum to get up that hill. Where I'm at now, I'm on a bit of an incline, which isn't too bad, but if you're on a sharp incline, you're not going to be able to get that traction. So you can either stay back a little bit, where it's a little flatter in a hill, to get up that hill, to get some momentum going up that hill. But if not, then you just do your best. Just ease on the throttle, nice and easy, and just go as slow as you can. Tip number six. You have to be a little bit more, how do I put this, lenient with rules of the road. You're a big truck, and if you need to take lanes to get places, obviously you want to make sure the coast is clear and there's no one around you. But you're going to be taking a little bit more liberties with using the road that you have access to make turns, to drive, to back up, these kinds of things, intersections and whatnot. And what I mean by that is sometimes if you have to make a sharp turn, you've got to go into another lane to button hook over and make that turn. Well, in winter, things are a little bit slower. You're holding up traffic a little bit more. You're taking a little bit more room because of snowbanks and whatnot. You can't be afraid to do that. People in cars will understand. Number one, because, well, you're a giant truck and they're not just going to run into you It's going to be a pain in the butt a little bit, but you've got to get these things, because if you get high-centered on a snowbank, then you're just blocking everyone for however long you're going to be there until rescue shows up. So it's better to inconvenience some people for a few extra seconds to make that turn safely than it is to have to call a wrecker to come pull you out of somewhere. So just be wary of your surroundings and the cars around you, but also don't be afraid to go a little overboard in making turns or getting to where you need to go or backing up to somewhere. It's going to take an extra 10 seconds, but that could save you having to sit and wait for, 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes you just need to hit that button. So as you can see, my truck has 3 settings of engine brakes: high, medium, and low. Basically what this is high, we'll put on full Jake brakes, and then after maybe 5 seconds or so, it engages the fan, and that helps sort of slow the engine down a bit more. The middle one is just the engine brakes, no fan, and this is like a half setting. Now these engine brakes will probably slow your truck down up to 10%. I don't know the exact number, but it'll help. When it's really, really slushy out and really, really bad, just keep it at a medium if it's bad. If it's kind of icy, you put it on low. Every little bit helps. But if it gets really bad, too bad, you want to shut this completely off and just use your brakes and get a feel for that, because this will just add to your braking and also add to you slipping out of control. But for normal situations like this, I usually just keep it on medium, and it helps keep a consistent amount of slowing down, whereas brakes are kind of, they're not exact. This is a consistent thing. But use your better judgment, get a feel for your truck, figure out what works for you. Another side rule for driving in the snow: wear boots, not sneakers. I didn't think it was going to be this bad, but alas, I'm learning my lesson. Anyways, this is how I brake. They'll teach you all kinds of stuff in school about stab braking and stuff, and that's actually very good. I don't know if this is exactly what you should do. Again, I'm not a professional, nor am I. Well, I'm kind of a professional technically, but I'm not a teacher of sorts. I'm just explaining what I do. So when you're starting to slip a little bit, and you're losing braking control, which does happen now and then, you kind of want to use a on-off method. Now most trucks nowadays have ABS, and that helps, but they're still going to lock up. So you want to, if they do start to lock up, fully release and then reapply the brake. So it's kind of a motion, okay, because you got to allow time for the air to go back to the trailer, release the brakes, and then press it again to set to engage the brakes, and then release again to let them roll. And then it's not instant, it's not pneumatic. Sorry, it is pneumatic. It's not hydraulic, where it's it's pretty much instant. These are air brakes, and there's a lot of travel room that the air has to travel through the tubes. So just something like this, and watch your mirrors and look at your tires rolling, and that'll be your best indicator of timing, depending on where you're at. So that's kind of the pace that I set. Everybody's trucks are different, so use your own judgment, but that's what they call stab braking, and that'll help when you're starting to slip a little bit and lose control, or under heavy braking in snow in an emergency kind of thing. But under normal circumstances, just light pressure, lots of space, keep a lot of distance. Alright guys, so I'm getting ready to get off here. Start slowing down. The roads aren't too terrible, but that off-ramp's going to be bad, so you want to signal early. So I got a truck behind me, let him know what I'm doing, and just very slowly use your Jake brake. And then you want to try and get as straight as you can as soon as the snow hits. You don't want to be really turning as you're coming off the snow. Use it nice and easy. Just feather the brakes. Those Jake brakes are less you know, sudden than the brakes, your actual brakes. So they do help kind of very easily slow you down. Now in bad situations, Jake brakes on high or even medium are going to, you know, make you lose traction. But those are under very, you know, severe circumstances, and just use your better judgment for those. Well, guys, I'm empty. So everything that I've just said is now exacerbated. I said exacerbated. I said baited. You slip more, you don't have as much traction, you lose it quicker. It's just not a great time. So, caution is key, speed is key, or lack thereof, and easy, slow braking is key. It's the only time of the year that I wish I was heavy, and I'm talking about my truck weight. So like I was saying earlier, you want to get the speed up, something like this. Nice and easy. And there we go. Power up the hill so you don't get stuck, especially on some train tracks. So everything is much more gradual. It's sort of a flow and just easy and nice. Another tip that I like to do when you're on the highway and you're under, you know, 50 miles an hour and you're driving safely is to kind of, as you're going along, hit the throttle, go maybe halfway, and then come back and go 3/4 of the way and gradually get to the point where if you hit it, your wheels start to spin, okay? Now what you're doing there, what I do there is as I'm driving down the road, and I'm testing the traction. That's a lot better than braking, because you could brake, your wheels could lock up and you could spin out. But under acceleration, you can let off and immediately, you know, you're going straight. You might fishtail a little bit, but not even fishtail. You'll just sort of lose traction a little bit, and that's what I do. I don't know if I recommend doing that, but as you're driving down the road, you kind of just hit the throttle a little bit, you know, and see if you lose traction. I usually mostly do that on the highway just to see how slick the roads actually are. And if I start to slip at, you know, half or 3/4 throttle, I know it's time to pull off and go park, because you should never really be losing traction that easily and that quickly. And that's only happened to me a few times where I've accelerated, you know, I was doing maybe 35, 40, and you just hit the throttle and just blip it just enough. You'll feel zzz, and that's it. You know, your tires spin just a bit, and that's a good indication of the traction that you have. And if that happens, maybe you should consider pulling over. So I think that's it, guys. That's all I pretty much have that I do. Again, disclaimer. This is what I do. These are my opinions and my views on how I drive in crappy weather. Knock on wood, I've gone 8 years and I've never had an accident in the winter, thank God. And I will continue to do what I do. I won't get cocky, and I just keep doing what I've been doing, and it's been working for me. Just slow, easy, take your time. Everything's very gradual and very smooth, and that's it. So I hope these helped, and if they didn't, well, you're probably better than I am. So, signing off. No matter what I say or what I do, just remember, you know your situation better than I do. You know your truck better than I do. So stay safe, drive slow, and keep on trucking, guys. If all else fails, you just throw chains.